The Hunter subclass is usually slept on when it comes to the Ranger class, but in our latest Honor Mode playthrough, we showed off this subclass, so in this video here, we're going to go over that build, the choices we made, and the gear that we were targeting. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be going up to Shadowheart and you'll swear she sounds something like this.
Hello, good hunter. Honorable hunter. You will hunt beasts, and I will be here for you to embolden your sickly spirit. Welcome home, good hunter.
Welcome back to the channel, y'all. If this is your first time with the channel, we like to focus more on viable, I would say RP builds for Baldur's Gate 3, something that you can bring into Tactician and Honor Mode, usually have a strong fantasy. And today, we're going to be doing our Honor Mode full hunter build. These are the timestamps you're going to see below, and that's right, you see 2 gameplay sections. But before we get started, consider hitting that like and subscribe button, and yeah, let's get started. Now, starting off with character creator. For your race, pick whatever you want. We always just go with human. Now, because this is a hunter build, of course, we need to pick Ranger as our first class. Favorite enemy. All of these are good choices because something like Sanctified Hunter here has proficiency with religion. Those checks will come up. We're just going to go with Ranger Knight because we have that proficiency with history, but also heavy armor. Now, your Natural Explorer, we will gain a resistance based off of your Wasteland Wanderer here to whatever element it is. So poison, this is pretty heavy in the early game. Something like the Spider, and then also Anti-Ethel, however you want to say it. She also does a lot of poison damage, so having resistance to that, huge. Big thing with Honor Mode and Tactician Mode is being resistant to whatever the boss does as far as damage. It's going to help out with your survivability. Now, moving on to our background, we are going with Criminal because this tab here, we had him as our face of the party. You can have your hunter be the face of your party and it'll be completely fine, but the skill we get here is Deception, so that'll help us out in conversations. Stealth, that's also nice as well. Our abilities, we want it to look something like this. 16 in Dexterity, this is the most important thing. And then we went with a triple 14. So 14 in Constitution, 14 in Wisdom, and 14 in Charisma. Again, face of the party, we need some sort of Charisma. Our spell modifier is Wisdom, so that's always nice to have at least a little bit in. And then Constitution for some survivability, also to help out with our concentration saving throws. This is how I would lay it out. Again, if your hunter here is going to be the face of your party. If not, you can dump the Charisma and then bump Wisdom or Constitution up to 16. But take note of our strength here because we're going to be bumping this up with either items or elixirs, and that's because of the equipment that we're going to be choosing. So equipment is an important part of this build here, so don't skip that section. But anyways, that's character creator out of the way. We still need to name our character. We will go with Normad. I don't know why. Let's keep going. Now on to the leveling section. At level 2, we get some spells to select. So I would choose either between Hunter's Mark, Enhanced Sleep, or Long Strider. Those are kind of the 3 that I would go between. And luckily, we get level 3 pretty quick. So whatever you don't choose here, you can choose very quickly afterwards. I'm just going to go with Hunter's Mark and Long Strider. Fighting style, go with Archery. This bonus 2 to your range weapon damage. This is really helpful because a lot of damage in Baldur's Gate 3 comes from like little ticks. So having 2 here, 2 from your items, a 1d6 from your items, it all starts to add up very quickly. Let's move on to level 3. Now at level 3, we get to pick up that other spell that we left off. For me, it was Enhanced Sleep, so we pick that up here. We also get to pick our subclass, and of course, the title of the video and everything, we're going with the Hunter. Good Hunter. Now, Hunter's Prey, this is our first subclass choice here. I would either go with Colossus Slayer or I would go with Horde Breaker. I would avoid Giant Killer here. Don't find too many instances where this is useful, but Horde Breaker, this is especially useful in like Act 1 and Act 2, where there's a bunch of little enemies, either like zombies or goblins that gather together, and Horde Breaker will give you an extra shot. This is pretty powerful early on because the action economy, you know, it doesn't start getting going, especially for our martial character, until level 5, but we have the opportunity for more strikes here on our Hunter subclass, which is great. Eventually, particularly when we get to level 11, Horde Breaker is not going to be very useful anymore, so I would actually respec and go with Colossus Slayer instead because once per turn, an enemy that is not full health, we get an additional 1d8 damage added on when we strike an enemy. This is just another tick of damage that is really good and universal that we're always basically going to be using every single turn, whereas Horde Breaker, again, in the late game, we're going to have another subclass feature that is kind of going to blow this one out of the water. But anyways, that's level 3 out of the way. Let's head on to level 4. Now, level 4, we get our first feat, Ability Improvement. If you are taking the Hag's Hair with your hunter here, then you could start with your Dexterity at 17 and then that Hag's Hair is going to bump it up to 18. Ability improvement, knocking it up to 20. This is going to be really good. This is what we did in our honor mode playthrough, but if you don't want to do that, that's fine. I would always take, for your first feat though, I would take Sharpshooter. You don't have disadvantage when you are on the low ground, but also you get that extra just roll 10 damage to your bow strikes at the cost of a -5 to your attack rolls. But we have plenty of things to kind of offset that penalty, and then we can just toggle this on and off if you really need to make a crucial strike. But yeah, that extra 10 damage, that's pretty big. So really, we're going to be grabbing Sharpshooter first, and then the follow-up feat probably just going to be ability improvement. Now for this playthrough and the gameplay that you're going to see, we are going to take ability improvement twice to bump it up to 20. But again, if you take that Hag's Hair, you only need to use ability improvement once. And then for your last feat, because we're going to get 3 feats, I would just go with Alert. Alert is just crazy good for everybody in your party to take. That way, with the action economy, everybody's in the same block, and there's just a lot you can do as far as your party synergy with that. But yeah, that's level 4 out of the way. That's our feat. Now let's jump into the gameplay section and show off how you play the Hunter in Act 1, because how the Hunter plays in the early game does evolve over time, especially the difference between Act 1 and Act 3. So let's show that off right now. Now for the first gameplay section in Act 1, let's take a look at our gear. We'll talk about it a little bit, but we'll save where to get this equipment in the equipment section. So right now we just have the gloves of archery, we have the caustic band, we also have the club of hill giant strength, we have a dagger +1, but we also have the Titan string bow. All of this equipment you can get in Act 1, and if you know where you're going, you can get it very quickly. So that's what we're using. Now, I almost forgot. Prep skills. We have a few. We have Long Strider. This is what you'd want to use on your entire party. And then Enhanced Sleep. If you know you're going to get into a fight, Enhanced Sleep is a great mobility option. It's going to be particularly useful for us here because we are going in solo. This is not a solo build, but in this situation, we are going to be fighting solo. And Enhanced Sleep is going to give us great kiting potential, because look how far we can jump with our bonus action. So that's going to be up our sleeve if we need to kind of kite. There are 4 enemies, so I think kiting is it's on the table. We're going to open up the fight with Hordebreaker, and you can kind of see the radius for it. And one of my biggest gripes with Hordebreaker is I wish it was a little bit bigger, because there's a lot of situations where enemies just are not close enough. Overall though, still excellent. We're going to open up the fight with Hordebreaker. Normally though, let's get this shot off first. Normally though, you'd want to open up with, oh, we surprised them as well, cool. Normally you want to open up with Hunter's Mark, but I wanted to surprise them, so that's why we didn't open up with Hunter's Mark. Now, we will use Hunter's Mark. Interesting. We hit him with Hordebreaker, but it did not stay procced. Well, that's fun. Game's a little buggy. Anyways, we will hit this one with our Hunter's Mark, and they're still surprised, but now we need to back up because we don't get that extra shot. Don't worry, it'll come up again. They're going to funnel together and chase us down, and you'll kind of see again the rhythm of how to play a Hunter, which is mostly just Hordebreaker, Hunter's Mark. Very simple, but very effective in Baldur's Gate 3. Come together, my friends, come together. Come get the lone hunter. Whatever will I do, shaking in my wee boots. Alright, let's do it again. Let's get into range. Right there's pretty good. That's a 50% chance. Like I said in the feat section, we can go ahead and pull our passive down here. Toggle off Sharpshooter. And now that jumps up to 75% chance. We'll do that. Good hit there. And then our follow-up now, because it worked. So you can see they have that little green status effect on them, but also the Hordebreaker effect, meaning we can do our follow-up shot. We still need to move a little bit closer. And another 75% chance. Pretty good. That's a good bit of damage. And again, at level 4 here, getting 2 attacks from range, that's pretty f***ing awesome. Excuse my French. Let's jump over here, because we want to kite them still. They're all pretty low. We got this one that's still full health, but again, as a hunter, we got to keep the distance, because these gnolls here, what they can do is a multi-attack hit. So they get to attack 3 times, and that can be very deadly, especially again, if we're going in here solo. Ranger is excellent for soloing in Baldur's Gate 3. This is not a solo build, but maybe this is a little bit of practice for our eventual solo run. Let's get a little bit closer. I think we can finish off both of these guys. If we get lucky, there's a critical miss. That's not exactly the luck we were looking for, but another 75% chance. 2 misses. Yes, game. Yes, this is what we love. We're going to give ground, and I don't think they're going to be able to catch up to us. This is actually pretty strong play style. Now, normally, again, you would have a party with you, and they could be, they're up in the front. You'd have a fighter, paladin in the front line. They'd be taking the most of the aggro, and then we could just be sitting back there using Horde Breaker. Now, a way to offset our hit chance. Bless, having somebody like a cleric bless your party, that's always really helpful. Very strong in Act 1. But also somebody casting Fairy Fire. So that'll put it, that'll give you advantage on anybody you're attacking. Which advantage? Very powerful, also in Act 1. Just in general in the game. There we go. There's a hit. Here's a follow-up. Beautiful. 2 of them down, 2 to go. 1 of them is very low. I don't think they're going to gather up together, and we're still maintaining our concentration on our Hunter's Mark, but that is saved for this guy. We should actually be able to one-shot him if he gets close enough, which he is. This one's really far out, so we're not going to get a Horde Breaker off. Oh, he's eating his friend. Disgusting. That was gross. Let's go ahead and toggle Sharpshooter back on, and hopefully the gods are in our favor. They are. Ooh, look at that damage. 25 plus 2 from our Caustic Ring. Beautiful. Now we can reapply our Hunter's Mark. I don't know if he's going to be able to get close enough to us, but I guess we'll see. Yes. Only 1 prey left. And really, 1 shot should do it. Yeah, he's dashing. That's his action. And come on in. Come a little closer. Now, there's nothing saying we actually can't go into melee either, because we do have our dagger and then our club, so we'll get 2 strikes. Very powerful still. You can go melee hunter if you want, but we've kind of built straight into doing range. So let's go ahead, hit him with the bow. And that's it. There you go. That's how you play your hunter for Act 1 and mostly Act 2. There are going to be some subtle differences, usually coming down to the arrows that we can use later on. But again, we'll talk about that in the equipment section, and then we'll show off kind of the evolution in the gameplay for Act 3. But let's go ahead and get on back to leveling. And last we left you, Hunter, you were level 5, and that's where we're continuing on. Now, at level 5, as a martial character, we get extra attack. Again, very powerful with Horde Breaker if the stars align. We get our level 2 spell slots as well. We can go through some of the useful ones here. I actually like Lesser Restoration because paralysis is pretty common in this game. So to have your hunter have the ability to cure that can be helpful. Pass Without Trace, this is just kind of the go-to because of that stealth buff. So if you want to play a stealth archer, this is mandatory. And then something like Silence, this can be useful as well. Those are usually the 3 that I kind of bounce between, but that's level 5. Let's just quickly go through to level 6 here. And we get another favored enemy. Really, at this point, I would just pick what you want. Having proficiency in Arcana, there's a couple checks that I like to make sure we succeed, so I'm going to go with that for that Arcana boost there. And then our Natural Explorer, Fire is pretty common as well as a damage type. Now, we do have something like Urban Tracker for proficiency in Sleight of Hand, but I feel like in general, our hunter here, our ranger, is already pretty good at lockpicking because of their high dexterity. And also, there's equipment you can pick up that'll help you out with your lockpicking. So I think going with Fire to always have that resistance, going to be handy. Now, moving on to level 7, we get to pick up another level 2 spell. I guess Dark Vision is also a really good pickup, especially if you are a human and you can't see in dark places. So that could be handy, but I'm going to go with Lesser Restoration. We also get our subclass feature, Defensive Tactics. I would go with Multi-Attack Defense. That way, when an enemy first hits you, their follow-up attacks have a penalty to their attack rolls. This is great survivability. I also like Steel Will here, which is you have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Frightened is a status effect that comes up pretty often from the enemy, so these are kind of my 2 choices that I go between, and for this video here and for our playthrough, we went with Multi-Attack Defense. Let's move on to level 8, where we are going to pick up our second feat, but also class feature. We get Difficult Terrain, so we're just an expert at moving around, and we're pretty hard to be slowed down, essentially. So feat-wise, we're just going to bump up our dexterity and then move on to level 9. We can zip on by some of these levels here. We do unlock our level 3 spell slots, but honestly, some of these are... you kind of want these to be a little bit better, like Lightning Arrow or Conjure Barrage. They're decent, but our kit is going to be better just using Horde Breaker and our regular bow. Daylight, this can be a useful spell, so I'll take that. And then moving on to level 10, we pick up our hide in plain sight. So with our action, we can become invisible. We also get a bonus to our stealth checks. This is decent. We don't use this too often. We also get another favorite enemy. At this point, it's pick whatever you want. I'm just going to go with Bounty Hunter. For our next Natural Explorer, there is some cold damage in the game, so we are going to be resistant to cold, fire, and poison. That's pretty awesome. Now, level 11. This is actually when I would respec. I would take off Hordebreaker. I would go with Colossus Slayer. Why is that? Well, we get two new actions. We get Volley and we get Whirlwind Attack. Whirlwind is for our melee attack. Not going to be using this one too often, but Volley, this is going to be an AoE shot that replaces our regular arrow shots. This is insanely good because we can use our follow-up extra attack, and then if we have something like a Potion of Speed or Haste on, we get another strike. This is a lot of damage it doesn't cost a spell slot or anything like that, and it just makes Hunter here one of the best AoE classes in the game, period. For our spell slot here, we are just going to take Lightning Arrow for the off chance that an enemy is wet, and we can do a lot of damage. And for our last level here, we get our last feat, and we're just going to bump up our dexterity to 20. And now we can move to the equipment section, where we will kind of break down the order of equipment that you're going to get in Act 1 that you should be targeting, to Act 2, and then Act 3, the door gets blown open and there's a lot of different options and avenues we can go down as a hunter, but we'll talk about most of those. So let's go ahead and head to the equipment section. Now, moving on to the equipment section, some of this equipment I'm just wearing for aesthetic reasons, like the Covert Cowl and then the Spider Silk Armor. We should actually probably take that off and put on the Graceful Cloth because this is actually a piece that I would recommend getting. But let's start off in the first map there. One of the first items you can get is the Gloves of Archery. This is going to add +2 damage to our ranged attacks, just kind of universally really good. After that, going to the Underdark, you can pick up the Club of the Hill Giant Strength. There's a tower under there. On one of the floors, there's a stool in the corner. You break it, and this club will drop. Pick that up because that's going to set our strength to 19, which is going to synergize beautifully with our bow and arrow. But still in the Underdark, you can pick up the Caustic Band at the Myconid Colony. There's that dwarf vendor. You can either steal it from her or buy it. It's pretty expensive, but again, universally good, +2 acid damage, and this is going to have some synergy with some of our Act 2 items. So that's the Underdark. Moving back topside, under Joachim's Rest, the Zentarim Hideout. If you deliver their cargo to them, they will unlock their secret wares, and you get the Titan String Bow. Not only does this add your dexterity modifier to this damage, but also your strength. That's why having our strength at 19 is really helpful. This might be the best bow in the game because as the game goes on, we're going to have very easy ways to both manipulate our strength and our dexterity to be higher and higher. Now, finishing off Act 1, the Githyanki Kresh. You can get the Knife of the Undermountain King from the Githyanki vendor. If you don't buy it from her, you can kill her and there's a chance it'll drop, but just to be safe, get enough money and buy it. Also, there is the vendor right outside of the Githyanki Kresh when you first get into the map. The Graceful Cloth here, using this mostly because of the dexterity it's adding to our character, but having Cat's Grace, especially if this character is lockpicking, that's going to give him advantage on lockpicking, which is going to be, again, very helpful. So this is a great armor set here. And then lastly, at the Githyanki Kresh, in the Inquisitor's Robe, you get the Strange Conduit Ring. While we're concentrating, that's a 1d4 damage that's added on top of it. So you see all these little ticks of damage that we're getting just in Act 1. I mean, we're getting a little bit from our gloves, we're getting a little bit from both of our rings, we're getting a big chunk of damage because of the bow we're using that is synergizing with our club here. And again, adding our strength and our dexterity to our bow hits. And then the knife here, or technically it's a short sword, but this is making our critical rolls a little bit easier by reducing the requirement by 1. So this is just a beautiful setup in Act 1 that's going to make us very powerful, and a lot of these items that we have on here we can use for the entire game, and it's going to work out just fine. Now, moving on to items in Act 2, we got a few choices here. At Moonrise Tower, Araj, the drow vendor there, she has the Circlet of Hunting, which is good because this is going to help out our attack rolls because we're using Hunter's Mark all the time, essentially. She also has the Risky Ring, which will give us advantage on our attack rolls. Any martial character should be using this ring, so if you don't have somebody like in melee using it, give it to your hunter, and that'll be really good. There's also the Icarus gloves here. Now this synergizes with the caustic band because this will spread a noxious fumes, this little AoE that'll do poison damage. So a little bit of synergy there. The gloves of archery are still very good, but now we're getting a lot of options. Another just universally good option for martial characters are the flawed Helldust gloves, going to add a 1d4 fire damage to our bow attack. So a lot of good options in Act 2. Again, I don't think any of it necessarily replaces our gear from Act 1, but again, more options and a lot of good choices. We also have the Killer Sweetheart. I don't like this one too much just because it only happens once per long rest, but you get this in the Gauntlet of Shar in the section where you gotta defeat your doppelgangers. This one's okay, but I'm just putting it out there because it is technically, a free crit, which is always helpful. Now for Act 3, we get a lot of equipment that we can shift our hunter to basically always be hunting critical hits. So something like the Dead Shot here, it's going to reduce the critical hit roll that we need by 1, and then also double our proficiency so long as we don't have disadvantage. This is just another universally good bow, kind of like the Titan String Bow a little bit better here, but there's also some offhand weapons, something like the Dola, Rhapsody, and then Blade of the First Blood, where this will reduce our crit chance by 1. This will give us a raw plus 7 damage if we get a critical hit. So that's why the Dola is always really good. And then Rhapsody, you kind of got to work with this one because you got to get some kills with it to bump up the damage. But this can be good if you want to take out Cazador early. And then for our helmet slot here, we have Savok's Helm. This will also reduce our what we need to roll for a crit by 1. So you're seeing how we get a lot of reductions from these pieces of equipment, and that synergizes with the Undermountain King. So what you would do is replace your Titan String Bow with the Dead Shot, and then just start stacking these on top of each other, and then maybe pop a Elixir of Viciousness, which is also going to reduce our roll for our crit chance that we need. And this is going to be, you're going to be critting all the time, essentially. Now, the Armor of Agility, this is just kind of universally good. It's going to be perfect for a character like our Hunter, who focuses a lot on dexterity. This is from one of the street vendors. Damon, if you kept him alive, yeah, he will have these gloves for you, the Legacy of the Masters. I think this is just universally good. And then also in the House of Hope, you can get the Gloves of Hill Giant Strength. That'll bump your strength up permanently to 23. A lot of synergy with the Titan String Bow, but for me, what I was doing is actually just popping Elixir of Cloud Giant Strength, which is bumping our strength up to 27. Talk a little bit more about elixirs in a second here. Let's just finish off some of the other pieces of equipment. Not, mandatory, but I think the Evasive Shoes are just universally good. The Cloak of Displacement, I think, works perfectly for a hunter. And then amulet-wise, kind of just pick whatever you want. I think the Amulet of the Harpers is just, again, another universal choice that if you don't have anything that's like working towards your build, this is just good. Now, in addition to equipment, talk about some really, really good items to look out for. Elixirs of Bloodlust. This will just keep your hunter killing target after target. Excellent. If you're hunting those crits, we already talked about the Elixir of Viciousness. And then with the Titan String Bow, if you ever want to get rid of your club here, using something, Elixir of Hill Giant Strength or Cloud Giant Strength, that's probably going to be the way to go in Act 3, and then just stack, and again, any one of these other offhands and replace your club here. That's going to be probably your best bet. And then the most important thing when it comes to a ranged character is collecting arrows. There's a few arrows that if you see them at a vendor, buy them, collect them, cherish them. 2 of them in general. And that is the Arrow of Many Targets. This is a great AoE option. Hunters already do a nice AoE, but it's a circle. Arrow of Many Targets. Man, these things will bounce around everywhere and do a crap ton of damage. Really good. Always buy these. Additionally, there are 2 dragons in the game that can be a huge pain in the ass. Buy as many of these as possible and those dragons will be deleted. You can skip the dragons actually and still beat the game in honor mode, but if you know you're going to go up against them, grab these whenever you see them. Now there's some other really good arrows here. Something like the Roaring Thunder arrows. This way you have a way to push enemies. Very helpful. And then another one is the Transposition here. It's kind of like your own little Misty Step, but using an arrow instead. And then of course I had to put the Smoke Powder Bombs, or the Smoke Powder Arrows here too, just because it's a lot of raw damage with fire and force. But look out for these items, grab them, stash up on them. Look at our playthrough. We make really good use out of these two arrows, and then having Roaring Thunder, again, very helpful. But that is the equipment out of the way. Let's go ahead and equip some of the really good stuff here and do an Act 3 gameplay showcase. And our hunter is going to be pretty juiced. Now, for the gameplay section here in Act 3, we are going to be using Shadowheart to give us haste. Now, pre-casting stuff here, we do have our Long Strider that we want. We also want something like Enhanced Sleep. We are going in solo, but we're going in very powerful. Just a quick look at our equipment. We already talked about all of these. And this is our setup here. We're using some stuff that is still from Act 1, and like I said, very powerful still in Act 3 here. Let's go ahead and get in there. Let's close the door behind us. Shadowheart, we'll talk to you later. Thanks for the haste, baby. Let's get in there. And we'll show off the whole kit. Now remember, we replaced Hordebreaker with Colossus Slayer. And so remember what Hordebreaker did as far as its AoE. And you'll see that Volley, kind of just the improved version. Is Hordebreaker still useful? Especially in a fight like this? Yeah, totally. But we'll be fine here. Now, let's first show off the arrow of many targets. Hit this enemy here. Let's actually make sure that we have Sharpshooter toggled on. It is. Nice. Look at that 95% chance. Go ahead and hit him with Sharpshooter. Oh, look at that arrow, how it's bouncing around. Just add up all that damage. Oof. Beautiful. So that's the arrow of many targets. That's why those are so freaking good. But Volley, look at that bubble. Look at that bubble, baby. Compare that to Hordebreaker. Yeah, this is excellent. So we'll go ahead and nuke this little side here. Actually, something we haven't been doing that we should have been is concentrating on something, because we still have the strange conduit ring on. So we can do we can do a little bit more damage. Let's go ahead and nuke this spot. Say right. Gotta find the sweet spot, you know what I mean? We'll do this first. Oh, look at all that damage. And because we're hasted, we'll hit him again. Just want to take out all the little small enemies here because we're already kind of wiping the floor. Okay, so they're all dead. Now, luckily, we have a couple things in our favor. Let them all come to me. It's not going to be a big deal. We have the Cloak of Displacement, which is making us pretty hard to hit. But we also have the multi-attack defense buff. So even if they hit us once, those follow-up hits, probably not going to land. And they got nothing. Looks like they're shaking in their wee little boots. It's because they're afraid of the hunter. Now, even though they're all close to us here, we just get one pop off. Oof. Also, these AoEs, didn't mention it earlier, these do not harm your allies, and obviously they don't harm ourselves either. Let's go ahead. We'll eat this damage here just to get a little bit of distance. If they can hit us. Losers. Anyways, go ahead and volley them down. Damn, this one's going by a lot quicker than I thought. Yeah, and he's donezo. Unfortunately, we'll use a smoke arrow or a smoke powder arrow. Boom. It's great. Hunters are really strong, guys. Rangers are really strong. And again, it's a combination of the equipment and the gear that we get in the game. And a lot of this comes from Act 1. But on top of that, our arrow selection it's so good. I think there's a good reason why a lot of people love Ranger in this game. And yeah, I am among them as a Ranger lover. But alright, you guys, that is the build, that is the video. One of you mentioned, hey, can you do some gameplay in Act 1? I'm like, do you want these videos to be over 30 minutes long? And they said yes. At least I think they said yes. So, for that person right there, this one was for you. I love Ranger in this game. I love Hunter in this game. Let me know how you guys like to play your Hunters. Again, we're just showing off builds that are viable in Honor Mode, and the proof is in the pudding because we just literally did this Hunter build, and I kind of want to share all the other builds we did in our latest Honor Mode run, so look forward to our green girlfriend and the build we ran with her. Anyways, guys, I will see you next time. Peace and take care.